Yeah, hold on. Okay, I'm recording now. For the new people, this is what we're doing. We've been going through the exercises from JavaScript30.com. If you're not familiar, drop the link in the chat. So we did these 4 so far, and now we're doing this one. And the twist is we're doing it in React. So these are all like vanilla JavaScript exercises. Is really good. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend going through the whole thing. It's really good for learning fundamentals for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But we're gonna do this flex panel one. So we've been doing it in Code Sandbox. So I already logged in. Code Sandbox. I always just pick this React one for the stuff we've been doing because we've been doing everything in React. This is a React template. So get in here. Let me give you the link. So we can, like, if people want to jump in and code too, if you go to that link, I can like enable you to like code with me. I'm gonna close this. Okay, before we get started, does anybody have any questions or comments before we just jump into this exercise? Even from last week's exercise, last week we did the array cardio. I think a lot of you were here last week. I'm not sure if there's some new people here. No questions, comments? Oh, is somebody trying to log in? Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna get started then, like we normally do, and then we'll just refactor. So I will start with the CSS. I'll just copy. Today we might, I was looking at this starter code, and I think maybe today we'll use CSS modules. So if you never use CSS modules, you can learn something new. So let's get rid of this app thing. Let's make our own panels. So we got this whole thing. Let's see. Let's get the HTML that he got. And then we'll start refactoring. Okay, that looks pretty good so far. Let's see. Does anybody want to volunteer? What I'm thinking is, just from looking at this code, it looks like we can make like a panel component, right? Like each of the things can be a panel component. So that's probably the first refactor. Let's get rid of this error first, whatever this is. So we get this every time when I copy and paste the code, right? There's no class in React. You have to use class name. So let's, oh, what was the VS Code one? I stopped using VS Code, by the way. So that's why I forget the, oh, there, I still got it. I still got
What do
it.
you use nowadays?
I use WebStorm. I've been using WebStorm for years, and I just think is way better than VS Code. I tried to give VS Code a shot. I didn't give it much of a shot though. I used it for like 2 weeks,
I
and
know that
then
idea. I know that their product is great at refactoring. I use it for Golang, and it's just fantastic.
it's like soup is way better for refactoring.
Yeah.
Especially safe delete was like a deal breaker for me. I need that, like, other,
Yeah.
because I'm working in huge code bases. And I love to delete code. That's like my favorite thing to do. So without the safe delete, it's, I have to like go digging through stuff to make sure that I can really, like, I have to do like control find and look to make sure it's not being used anywhere. In
Yeah.
WebStorm, I don't even have to think about it. I just do safe delete, and then boom, it deletes it if it's safe to delete it. That was a deal breaker. And the Git tools.
Good
I
tool.
tried.
Okay.
Yeah, WebStorm has built-in Git tools that are super awesome for like, especially for like rebasing and stuff like that. And when there's merge conflicts and stuff like that, it's amazing tools. I would have a hard time doing. I tried to do it with the VS Code like plugin. There's one that people use. I forget what it's called, and it didn't compare at all to the WebStorm ones.
Do you interact with Git using the IDE itself?
Yeah, man. If you're using Git on the CLI, you haven't lived until you use the Git GUI tool.
I tried Git Kraken. It's like kind of, it's cool, but it's pretty limited though.
Yeah. So, yeah, I get my work to pay for my IDE. So somebody was saying, but you got to pay a subscription. Doesn't matter to me. I just make my workplace pay for it. Every time I get hired, I'm like, yo, can you buy me a WebStorm license? Okay, let's get back to what we're doing. Does anybody? Oh, I didn't even finish. Oh, I got distracted by thinking about WebStorm. Okay, back to how we've been doing it. Copy paste the CSS styles, copy paste the given HTML, get rid of all the errors so that we got a clean slate. And if you saw Wes Boss's thing, it doesn't look like this. Maybe we can watch like it. Here's the picture. We don't need to watch it. It should look like this, right? So we gotta fix some things up. It should be. We're gonna do some flexbox. There's a bunch of flexbox he uses to do the layout for the people that watch the video. But first, let's componentize this first, because that's the wonderful thing about React, right? We don't have to just, when we write HTML, you got to repeat all the code over and over. And you can modularize it using like templates and stuff like that, but it's not as nice as like component framework like React. So let's make a panel component, because that looks exactly what we need. Does anybody want to volunteer to like start coding a panel component, or should I kick it off again?
I can give it a shot.
You can give it a shot? Okay. Yeah. Richard.
Be the backup volunteer for the whole night.
Yeah, and you can just code it in the same file. We don't need to make another. It's just a small component. So let's just keep it simple and just put it in the same file. And let's pass in the instead of the children. Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's good. That's good. I see what you're doing.
Where do you mind showing the link for or what you call it, pasting the link for the sandbox? Thank you.
Yeah. I was thinking instead of the class name though, let's pass in the image source. So, because that's kind of weird in React, I think, to just like pass in the class name like that. So like if you look at the CSS, let's see. So he like made a panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. Let's like, I think it would be better if we pass in the URL like for the image source. And then we can just set it in line the background image. Let's do it like that. I think.
So
Or-
you would delete the panels, the panels out of the CSS, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me that it's like that. Here, I can let me take over because it's kind of hard to explain what I'm thinking. It just looks kind of weird to me to like pass in a class name to a component. That's like, I don't think that's like not a normal pattern in React to like pass in a class name. So instead of a class name, like if we do like let's do background image source or something like that, and then we'll do instead of class name, like let's hard code panel because we want it to be a panel, but then let's also do style, and then we'll do what was it, background image URL, and then image source. Let's do something like that. And let's see. I'm gonna close this side. So, like, let's take this, copy and paste this. Let's just do that one. Let me copy and paste this whole thing, and we can do some magic here. So, let's just show you what I'm thinking. Here, fonts, background image, sources. Oops. So let's do some multiple cursors. Let's see. Do this. Oh, I messed it up, but close enough.
What did you press for that?
Command D. Then
You're missing some of the curly braces.
yeah. And then, oops, deleted. Let's just call it images. Okay, so I got all the images. Let's close this sidebar again. Let's see. And then let's just loop over the images. And then we had a panel component, right? And then, oh wait, we can't do it like that. We need the words too, that's why. Shit.
You can make the the array that you have. It could be an object with the image name, with the image source and the words you want.
Yeah, but that's too much work. Let's just, instead of mapping it, let's just call these each a panel. So do that. And then here, So I'm gonna get rid of that array that we made. And I'll just hard code it in Lang. So the first one's still there. So that's pretty good. And let's do the rest. Let's see. Oh, how did this get down here? Let's get rid of that. So panel, and then panel. Oops. Panel. Panel. Okay. Oh, I missed this. Panel. Okay, I'll get rid of this. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks like a good. It's more Reacty now than it was before. Does anybody have any questions about what we did? So you cannot pass an item of an array to a panel component. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Panel component.
Oh, I think it's because so I guess so panel is a custom component that we made, and I don't know if that's where you're having an issue.
Yeah, we could pass. I could pass it, but I also need the words. That's why I stopped. I was like, I not only need each panel has unique words that get into it. So then I would have had to like put into the object like an array of the words, and this just looks cleaner than doing that. If
Yeah.
it was like 100 panels or something, then maybe we would separate the data, like maybe even into like a separate file, into like a JSON file or something, and then like especially if there's someone else on the team that can like that doesn't know how to code, but like it's easy for them to like look at a JSON file and you just tell them, can you fill in like the images for each panel and the words for each panel and just make one example, and then they can kind of figure out how to do it. But if you give them a React component, they're like not gonna know what to do if they don't know how to code. So it's much easier. I've done that on projects. I've worked like contract work for, I built a Reactathon conference website a couple years in a row. And I worked with the conference organizer. He knew how to code a little bit, but it was easier for me to just say like, when you get like the speakers, images, and whatever data that needs to go into the components, just fill out this JSON file and then I'll just load it in. And then that's how we did it. It's easier for them to just put all the data in a separate file. But like when you have like only 5 components with very specific things, it's not really necessary, especially since we're just doing it. We can just do it like this. Like we could have just passed in the class, but like I wanted to switch it up a little bit and just like mix in some inline styles, and it just, like I said, it just seemed, some things just seem weird after you write a lot of React, and like passing in a class name as a prop is not really even though that would have worked perfectly for what was already given to us and what CSS Westboss already did. I don't know. I just felt weird doing it, so I switched it up a little bit.
So one quick question. Oh, right, yeah. So, see, when you're making, like, when you're writing a React project, how much stuff would you like hard code into the project in terms of like layout stuff, like versus I guess how much would you like, say you create a component and it's just like one instance of the component that you would like use map to like fill it with different content. Like, is that something that you do often? I don't know if I'm asking this question properly.
I mean, well, the answer to every question is it depends. Anyways, like I was just explaining, because for every decision you make in a project, there's a trade-off. Like nothing doesn't have trade-offs unless you're just writing hello world, but like even that probably has trade-offs in the different ways you can do that. So like I said, like this thing has only 5 things. It's kind of easy to read the code with if you don't have the map, it's kind of easier to read it just like this. You don't have to think about like, why are these things in the array? What is this map thing? Why is it like doing all these things? It's like easy. Here's one panel, here's one panel, here's one panel with these words. It's like super easy to read. It looks better like this. It's just mentally like it's easier to read this component.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, if this thing had 100 panels on it, that would be a different story, right? You would have to like, and especially like if you're the front end developer, like that's kind of a waste of money if you're the person who has to manually write all these things. It's just text. Like that's not something that's difficult, right? Like
Right.
some,
Why?
you could just have like a assistant who doesn't even know how to code fill out that information I was saying, like somewhere else. They could even like fill it out like in like a Google spreadsheet or something, and then they just export it to CSV, and then you can just write a script to like convert it into JSON or whatever. Like you could do anything like that. It all depends on the situation.
Right.
But yeah, so it depends on a lot of different things. So let's see if we got anything else. Okay, so we got it, but we gotta do some flex box. So does anybody else wanna volunteer? First of all, let's clean up some of the styles though. Let's get rid of this. We don't need this. We got rid of that. So just to make it less confusing. That's gone. Let's see. I'm also gonna make another component because I said I wanted to like mix things up, and for some people, if you never use CSS modules, I just wanted to throw in some CSS modules to make sure we like scope the styles to the panel component, because even though we're like doing it in the same file, sometimes you want to scope, you want to make sure the styles are only on that component, and that's not really necessary for what we're doing, but it might be cool for people who never done CSS modules. So I was gonna make another panel.
I have a quick question. In your experience, what's the preferred way of stylizing components? Should you use module stylized components or CSS and JS? I mean, there seems to be quite a few ways of doing it. What's the preferred way of doing it?
Yeah, so like I said, the answer to every question is it depends. It depends. If you're doing it by yourself, it doesn't matter, right? You can choose whatever your favorite thing is. If you're doing it on a team, you got to come to consensus with your team. Like, what do you want to do? If the
Okay.
company has like a preferred way of doing it, then you should probably go with the preferred way of the company. Like I worked at Lyft, and there was a front end working group, and they came up with these drafts of like recommended technologies for projects that you do. It's not required that you follow. They weren't dogmatic, like you have to follow things we recommend, but like they have a Slack, you know, for front end errors. And if you run into trouble and you don't use what they recommended, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get help, because like everybody else is using that other thing, and then you decided to be the rebel and use something else that nobody else is using. Now you get stuck with that thing. Who's going to help you? None of the other teams are using it.
Yeah.
So usually it's a lot of discussion with the team, especially when you're deciding on stuff like how you're going to do styling. Like that was one of my first questions on my first day of my new job at Strike. I just started 2 weeks ago. Is I on my first day I set up a sync with the other front end developer just to see how to get started. Like one of my first questions is, how are we doing styling? Because you don't want to do it in multiple different ways. It'll make the code base a lot harder to work with. Usually you decide on one way to do it. Sometimes you'll see a Frankenstein websites, and sometimes that happens because you started doing something like this happened at Lyft. My team was using emotion, and they made that decision before I even came on. So I don't even know why they were using emotion. I mean, I'm not complaining. I like emotion. But eventually the front end working group was formed. And then that's when they said they recommend styled components. The design system was like based on it, and everybody was, and like styled components is one of the most popular ways to do styling in CSS for React projects. Like right now.
What do you find the easiest to maintain like in your experience? What would be easiest to maintain?
They're all style components is good. CSS modules is good. Those are the main two that I use. Like if I'm just playing around, like in Code Sandbox, sometimes if I'm doing like just playing around like this, I'll usually, like if you've been here the past weeks, we just been using global styles like this, and we just import the CSS. But like when you're in a big project, that's like not a good idea, right? Because you're gonna have like, then the styles aren't scoped to the components. So I just wanted to introduce CSS modules because out of the box, you can use that in Code Sandbox as long as you name the file something.module.css. Next.js, also you can use it right out of the box. So on Next.js projects, I usually just use CSS modules. I have like, I mentor at the side project, which is a startup. And my team right now that I'm mentoring, they're using Next.js. So I told them they might as well just use CSS modules since it's built in. Because like if you're gonna use style components, you gotta install the dependencies. It doesn't come out of the box for Next.js. So it's just one less dependency, and CSS modules are fine. I don't have any problems with CSS modules. So I think it's okay. But it depends if you're using a design system and stuff, because like Lyft has the internal design system, you know, and it's kind of built on styled components, if I remember correctly. Yeah, React specific design patterns. I'm not sure what you mean. There's maybe there's like a lot of like patterns and anti-patterns. Like I would say just go on Front End Masters and watch Brian Holt's like React course. That there's too much stuff. Like we'd be here all night like going over like the patterns and anti-patterns and stuff for React, and just hang out on Twitter. There's like all the React team hangs out on Twitter. Maybe not all of them, but like Dan Abramoff is there, and like Was it Andrew Clark? Like a lot of people, they're just tweeting, just follow them and talk to them. You can ask them questions. Can't See Dodds is good. I have a Twitter list. If you don't know all these developers, it's a list to get started. Let's see, I can bring it up.
I got it.
You got it? Where? I don't see it. There you go. Okay, Kiki got the list, so I can just show you on the screen. I made this list of like these 35 developers right now. Once in a while, I haven't changed it much, but like I think sometimes I add and remove people. I don't remember the last time I updated it. So these are just like a bunch of people that I really like. And if you don't know about Twitter lists, you just click on lists and then you click on lists. And then if you browse the list, it's just stuff that the people on my list posted or they liked or retweeted. There's much less noise than the normal, just if you click on home on Twitter. Somebody's asking you about front-end masters. This is front-end masters. It costs money, but if you're a front-end developer or you're doing front-end work, totally worth the money. I paid for it for years. I just paid a yearly subscription, which is kind of a lot. It's like $400 or $500, I think, for a year, but it's super valuable. I find it really valuable. I watch a lot of front-end masters, a lot of Egghead I like, has a lot of good React stuff. But a lot of it's just hanging out on Twitter. Like the React people are tweeting, like if you hang out on Twitter for at least every day, like check it out for a little bit, like you can learn a lot. Just make sure you follow all the developers. There's probably even React lists and stuff on top on Twitter. But I'm picky. I like very specific developers that have specific styles of coding, and just over the years, I've gravitated towards certain developers, like the way they do things, because developers are very opinionated, you know. So but there's like I said, there's trade-offs for everything. So is that any more questions before we move along on our project? No? Okay. Does anybody want to try and make it so that it looks like this? There's 5 panels. We'll just take it step by step. First of all, first step is instead of stacked up like this, we want it to be each panel is like a column on the page. Anybody want to take a stab at that? No.
I mean, I can go again, but I think I had it back up right.
Claude, you want to jump in? You were the backup. No?
Research here right now, but CSS is kind of my weakness.
Well, that's the perfect thing for you to jump in on then.
Same here.
I tagged you in. So, I forgot. I was going to set you up a little bit. Let's see. Let's move some of this stuff so you have less noise on the page. Let me fix this first. So if you don't know CSS modules imports it as a object, and then panel module. And then in here, you do styles.panel. Then it's back. And then if we go and look at the DOM, I can show you what happens, what CSS modules does. So let's see. Oh, it's kind of hard to find it. Let's search for panel. So let's see. It's kind of hard to see it the way that Code Sandbox does the. Well, let's search for the words like, hey. Oh, there you go. So if you look at like, hey, oh, what is it doing? It did something weird. I don't know. Code Sandbox is doing something weird. You can look at it like, or maybe if we pop it out, let's pop it out. That's probably a better idea. Now let's look at it. We won't have all the Code Sandbox weirdness. Okay, now we're cooking. So if you look at the class, like here, maybe it's small, like I can copy and paste it in the chat. That's like an example. It like dynamically like created that class name. So it makes sure that it creates like a unique name so that there's no clashes on the page, like if you had other panel classes in other components. So it just makes sure there's no e-scopes the styles to the component. So like when on build time, it like generates the class name. That's pretty much what style component does. So it allows you to.
It's kind of similar to styling, how Angular handles styling.
Oh yeah, I haven't really done too much Angular.
Yeah, me neither until I got the job.
Okay, for you, we can leave the CSS in here, but so you might need to edit some CSS in here and also here, but the first part is just gonna be in here. So if you wanna, I tagged you in, so if you wanna type.
Yeah, I was initially thinking of display flex and then flex direction, but I tried it on the panel. Okay, panel, class name, panel.
You want to do it on the main, like panels is the container for all the panels. Mm-hmm. And that's what you first want to change into flex, right? Because then you want each child to be like, well, you'll see what happens.
So I should be putting the display flex on the panels instead.
So you see what happens here? So it's almost there, but like what happens is it shrinks it to fit whatever content is in there. So we kind of want to fill up the whole page. That's how WestBoss does it. And the way you can do that, just to save time so you don't need to look it up, is you can just say, you want each flex, I think it's on this, to just take up one free space. So like in the row, there's 5 things. And if you put 1, then it will automatically calculate like how much space each one can take so that it fills up the whole row. If that makes sense. So that's good. What else does he have on here? He has, he also did it so that like, now we need more flex box though, like on each flex child also needs to be like a flex component too, right? So how do we get this so like it's in the center here? You wanna attempt that, or you're already going? This is where you probably need flex direction, because by default it's row when we didn't have to define it because we wanted it flex direction row. But if you want it to be column, then you gotta specify column. Okay, now how do we get it like in the middle?
It's probably another property.
Justify?
Align,
Content.
align or justify?
It's
I think you need both.
You can use place items too, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, let's try use place items. Does that work on Flexbox or is that grid?
I believe it's both.
Okay, yeah, that's a new thing. So that does the job of both. That's been a running joke in CSS for like a long time. Like, can you center a thing in a div? And now it's finally easy. Place
So it's
items.
place-
Is it
That's
place
nice.
items?
Place items
Uh,
what? And what's this?
It
What's
should
this?
be.
Should I be putting it the display flex over here, or should I be putting it on panel? Probably.
You should be putting on panel because this is
Okay.
each word. So you're making each word like a.
So display flex, flex direction column.
So place items didn't work. It looks like. Let's try look it up. Place.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Oh, did it work?
Justify content worked.
Okay. Let's see. How do we make it so West Boss puts like these words more at the top? Let's put I think in his thing he put a border just so we can. It's easier to see what we're working with. Oh, wrong thing. I want to see each item inside of the flex. Okay, so he did something where he did, I forget what he did. Flex 1, 0 auto. I watched the video earlier today. Let's see. 1, 0.
Oh, you have the borders so you can line it up properly?
So you can like, let's try just 1. And then let's center each one too. Let's select content. There. Oh, I don't know how come the place items thing wasn't working. We can look it up. Oh, how come that's not working?
I
You
think
need display flex too inside the children.
Oh yeah. Flex on flex on flex. Okay. I think that's good enough. That's not exactly what he has, but like it's good enough. Like we don't have a lot of time to make it exactly like how he did. I think that was like a good enough learning experience, but I am curious about place items. Let's see if we can get that to work. If this stupid Zoom thing wasn't in my way. Every time you put the mouse to the top, it like brings the zoom tools down. Place items, center flex box, MDN.
Auto center? Center
Oh,
normal? There's
center
more than one.
Oh, can you do center?
I don't
Let's
see
see.
center.
Place items auto. Let's see. Center place. See, it's still hard to center it in the div.
Center is the same thing as center because if you apply one property, it applies it to both of them. So
Oh.
I don't think it's that.
How come it didn't work then? Let's try it again. Let's see. Place. Maybe we didn't have the display flex on the right place. No, it didn't work. No, it didn't center it the other way though.
Yeah, apparently it's a shorthand for align items and justify items. So like the arguments are always 2.
Oh, how come we did justify content? Oh, that's what it is, right? Justify content center. I don't know. Let's just leave it. It works.
No, it's justify items, not justify content.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the place items, or at least that's what MDN says.
Oh, what did we do wrong?
It's
there?
like it's a different property that place
Well,
items is touching.
Okay, well, it works.
Actually, use
Oh,
justify content to align center on the x-axis, and you use align for the y. It's content, not item for Flexbox.
let's just leave it. So one thing that he does is like when you click on it, the font size comes bigger. Let's try to do that part. So that when it's open, it's like the text comes bigger, and then so we're gonna add a like open class whenever the text comes bigger, and then for that we can use class names. I don't know if people, that's like a popular library to make like to add classes like if you have like some kind of Boolean flag, like when you want to add like class names. So let's do, let's just look it up real quick. I haven't used it in a while. Okay, so we just import it, and then you can do like, you know how I said, like if you want to say if it's open or not, then you can do this kind of thing. So let's think about it though. When you click on, there can be only one open panel at a time. So we kind of gotta keep track of which panel is open.
Not so much. I mean, what we could do is we could clear all the panels and then open and then apply all the, we can apply the class to the panel that we want. So it would
How do
like,
you,
well, that's what
do
I
you
was
want,
thinking in my, go ahead.
let's tag you in, and then
Nope,
let's try.
no, it's not that serious.
You don't want to try your idea?
No. I was just thinking about it like that. That's how I guess I would try it, like just to make it simple in my head.
Oh, Demetrio, did I say your name right? He's saying we can move the zoom tools. How do you move the zoom tools? You can't, there's no like handle to like move it. Yeah. Well,
You click on the like when you scroll all the way up and the zoom tools appear.
yeah.
Click on like the little green icon and just drag it and move it somewhere else.
The green icon.
Oh,
Whoa. The magic zoom UX that you have to just guess. That is not intuitive at all, at least to me. Well, at least we got the zoom tools out of the way, so we won't have that problem anymore. All right. How about you, Claude? You were typing. Do you have an idea how we're gonna do this? We
I was
need
thinking-
to only open one panel at a time. So it gets bigger. I think West Boss does Flex 5. Let's get the style in place just so he added in Flex 5 when it was bigger, and then he also makes the words like come in and stuff, but I don't know if we're gonna have time for that, so let's just work on like making it get bigger.
So
when
is
you,
he
like, click on
basically
it.
increasing the size of the current panel relative to the other panels, but the other panels are still there? So that's why you're doing Flex 5.
Yeah,
So then it contains like 5 units versus like the relative 1 units of the other ones.
Yeah, let's get class names in place first. So at least let's just make it like grow, and then we'll figure out like how to do. If you click on another one, like the other one should shrink back too. So do you want to try to do that part, Claude? Of like using class names to like set the classes. Have you used class names before?
No, I've never.
Okay, let me do that part then. So
Yeah.
just to get us started. So you can do class names. Well, first of all, we can start with that.
I just use
yeah.
vanilla class names.
Oh, what happened?
Class name is not defined.
Because I don't know how to type. I guess we do have to think about how we wanna which one is selected though. In here, like we can say like, let's just keep it simple here. I got an idea. There's only 5 things. Let's just like make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like which one is selected. If we think of a better way to do it later, I'd rather just get it working. So let's do const
So you're gonna
open. What is that?
So you're gonna attach IDs to all the panels?
No, I'm just gonna have like a Boolean flag, and I'm just gonna here, you'll see in a second.
Oh, I see. And then like on click, you'll just change the Boolean flag.
Yeah. So let's do like let's what else is open, and then if it's open, and we do this. Let's just call it open. Then I don't need that thing. Which is always a discussion on the team. I've always this is always like an issue on my teams because some like material UI and stuff, I think they use like prop names like open, but opens, it sounds like a verb, like it sounds like a function. So like some developers, they're like, you should call it is open because it's a Boolean. And that's like, even some linters will be like, if it's a Boolean, you got to call it like is or has something. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to type it open so I can just pass it in like this, because this either takes true or false like that. And then it will add on the, oh, actually, I'm wrong. We're using CSS modules, so I'll have to do styles.open. And then, so I can't do that trick with my, so now they're all like super big because I made them all open. Let's go back to is open since I can't do my shortcut because we're using CSS modules. So CSS modules, you know how like in an object, like if the name is the same as the value name, then you can just put the name. I was trying to do that shortcut, but since we're doing CSS modules, we can't do that. So I just changed it back to is open. So now it's a little tedious, but we'll just have to go like this. I can copy and paste. Then we'll go open panel ID equals 1, or let's start at 0. We're called more natural to us. So now it's looking like maybe it would have been better to like map over things. So like every time I was like, never be afraid to just do stuff and then refactor it later on. Because a lot of times the patterns don't become clear until after you like hashed out some ideas, and then you can create like the right like structures because it's clear because you tried out a bunch of stuff. That's just normally my process. Like I don't try to think of the best way to do the component first. I just want to think of a way that will make it work. And then I'll do it. I'll get it to work. But before I make a pull request, I will try and like think of like the best way to like refactor the code or something like that. Normally, that's how I do it.
Yes, I think the saying is make it work, make it good, then make it fast.
Yeah. So now it's coming pretty obvious that it's kind of tedious that we didn't like map over it, right? Now that we got these like on click stuffs and I'm like repeating numbers. So in hindsight, I don't think we'll have time to refactor, but
Yeah, I was working on that, on the mapping, and it takes a second.
yeah, I'd rather not. It's pretty clear right now that based on what we're typing, that if we were mapping, we would have had the index numbers like automatically, So now when you do, let's see, except that doesn't work. How come? Let's see. Let's console log. Open.
Undefined.
Oh, I'm a dummy. We didn't pass in the on-click thing here. We didn't attach the click to the div. There we go. Look at that. Woohoo. Well, I think that's as far as we're gonna get. It's 9 o'clock already. Let's do questions. Anybody have questions or comments about what we did?
I was wondering how you got the indexes for the on-click,
How did I get the what?
like the indexes, like the numbers. How do you?
I hard-coded. I just hard-coded it.
Oh,
I just put in the numbers. That's why I'm saying like now it's looking like it would have been better to make like items. I don't know what or a panel data or something like that. We would go like this, and then we would say background image source is like this thing.
I mean, I think you could have actually passed
Then words equals like hey, let's
so like I'm as you're typing, I was thinking, can you pass like an HTML element like as a prop? So let me look at the code. So like for instance, all the words you could put that in like a div or something.
You can, but that's kind of weird, right? Like when you want the data, this looks more like data. It's kind of weird when you mix in like HTML.
I mean, just to make it simpler so that you don't have to clean up everything and then pull out all the words and put them in the right place.
But like this, all this does is, here's like a quick example. I'm not gonna type all of them. This reads better to me.
Right.
Or like, or you could even use the image source as like you could keep track of which image you clicked. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. So you could do something like this, and then you say, oh, what did I miss? Oh, what is it? Expected a comma. Data that map. Well, we don't have time. I don't want to like go down the rabbit hole, but like this is how I would do it. And then the only thing is like you would have a nested loop because the words is another loop, and then that would like come over. So
Right.
you could like, there's different ways that you can like make it more readable. But like I said, it's usually more clear like once you like play around with it. Because then even looking at this, I mean, that still looks okay. Like it gets the job done, you know, and it's still pretty readable. So I don't think it's like super bad to do it like this. But yeah, I would structure the data to look something like this. And then you could even like set the ID here, like if you wanted to. If you wanted to be more clear, like each thing is
Right.
really explicit now. Like this panel has this ID and this image source and this words. So, but like you were saying, like you could do this. You could just do. You could do. I think you could just do this.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
I don't know, that looks really weird to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it's just like in the interest of time.
Or like or you, oh, this would be maybe a little better, like you could do children, something like that. Something like that. But yeah, I like to make the data like look like data, so I would probably do it like this, something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
If I'm gonna group together each item, like this is a normal pattern. You prepare all the data, and then when you're gonna map it, then you define then you just loop over the data, and then down here is like the JSX that defines like how it's gonna display. Yeah. Anybody? Some people asking questions in the chat. Sorry, I don't always pay attention to the chat. Children. Children. Anything that's, these are all children of this panel component. So that's why all of this data showed up. Like when we opened it in a new window. So if you do Code Sandbox, if you want to inspect the HTML, it's better to open it up in a new window because you don't have all that iframe crap, and Code Sandbox just has all this complicated stuff to make it show up. So here you can see it's easier to see, like this is the panel component and these are the 3 Ps. It's even better if you look at the React Dev Tools. I mean, you gotta install the React Dev Tools. And then if you look, all it has in the Dev Tools, all this app did is render 3 panel components, and then you can look what the children were right here. And you can see it was 3 P tags, but it doesn't tell you what the text is, so that's kind of weird. Wonder if any of these things use source for this element. Oh, that's cool. It jumps right to the source. I never clicked on that button before. It went right to the source for the panel component.
Wait, what did you click?
I clicked on this view source for this element. Yeah, you can also inspect matching DOM element, then it jumps right to the DOM element, and then you can see the children. So yeah, if you're a React developer, you gotta have this components thing installed. It like helps you debug like what is the current state of the props and state if there's state, and you can do profiling to if there's performance issues in your app, you can see like what's causing the app to be slow. The profiler will help you like figure out how to do it, debug it. I also have Redux dev tools, like the app I'm using at work now. We're using Redux. I haven't used Redux in a couple of years. My team didn't have Redux. We were using MobX on our project, and man, Redux has gotten a lot better. There's a lot less boilerplate now than there used to be like a few years ago. There's like a React tools thing, and like you don't need to like connect all the components. You just do hooks now for everything. It's pretty sweet.
Context is really good, right?
Yeah, but we don't. We just use Redux. Like we are like they were already using that, so like we don't have any context, I think, in our app right now. But I have used that at Lyft. We use context quite a bit. Like we use MobX and then context.
Actually, I'm not sure. I might have missed that. You said like what is the state management you tend to use?
It depends.
Oh.
All these kinds of questions are stuff you have to discuss with your team. Like whenever you're working on a project with a team, those are like the first things you discuss, like how we're gonna do styling, how we're gonna manage state. And yeah, it depends what people are comfortable with. Cause like if you have people that worked with Redux for years, like might as well just use Redux, right? You're probably gonna go way faster. Every React dev who's been doing React for a while have probably used Redux. But then like you might not need Redux. Maybe you can get away with just doing local state and React context. But then if your app gets really big and you got to manage a lot of state, then Redux comes in really handy. If you need to save things to local storage, like Redux already has all these tools in the ecosystem that makes it easy to cache things in local storage. You can save things in cookies. There's like so much things in the Redux ecosystem that it's really helpful to just use Redux. It's just a proven thing that works. So a lot of projects use Redux, but then MobX is great too. So people use MobX, but there's newer tools like React Query and stuff. So like then React Query like manages like data fetching. It manages state for you, and it has like built-in caching and built-in retries and all kinds of stuff like that. And SWR is Vercel's one. It's just like React Query pretty much. I haven't used this one because I didn't find out about it until after I was using React Query, and it looks almost, the API looks almost exactly like the way that you use it looks exactly like React Query. So I haven't tried it yet. So it depends what you're doing. But like at the app I'm working at now, there's like a ton of state that needs to be like, there's all these kinds of wizards where you go through one step to another step and another step. And it's much easier to have the state in Redux. Then no matter what step you're on, you can always just get the state from Redux using the hooks. Like you just do use selector, and then you pass whatever selector you need to get it out of the Redux state. So like Redux has all these hooks now that make it like super easy to work with. Like before, when React was using class components, you had to like map state to component and all kinds of boilerplate stuff. And if you forgot to do one thing, it was just broken. So that used to be a complaint for Redux before. There was like so much boilerplate just to like connect the component and do all kinds of stuff. And now it's much cleaner. There's like, you just create these like slicers and then it creates actions. I don't even know. It was all set up already. So I didn't write any new Redux stuff in our app yet at work. I'm just using like existing selectors and like data fetchers and stuff that's already built into that. I've been working mostly on UI stuff. I did have to like fetch some new state and stuff, but like I didn't, for my use case, I only needed to load the state when the component loaded, and I didn't need it in any other component. So I just use like use state and save the state locally in the component. Are there any other questions about anything? Doesn't have to be about what we just did. I can stick around for 10-15 minutes if people want to ask me stuff.
Yeah, just one thing about the thing that we did. What is class names exactly?
That's just a
What's
package.
that class name module?
It's just like it makes it easy, because in React, right, like if you have multiple class names, like you have to, class name only takes a string. So you have to like use like a ES6 template, but then what if you have like some class names that are optional? Like it's gonna, your string is gonna be weird. It's gonna say undefined in there and stuff, like, or if say, like you'll need like a ternary in here to be like display the class, or an empty string, and then your string looks weird that a class name has a class name and then a space after it. So class name will generate the CSS class so it looks nice. So when you go and look in here, let's open one. So it generated a nice, it put this class name, it put a space, and then it put this class name. Like if you didn't use class names, you would have to do it like, let's comment this out. Well, we can just type it. So you would have to do, let me just copy this. Well, I can just command exit. You would have to do this, and you have to do styles.panel, and then you would have to do is open styles.is open or empty string.
Yeah, both class names and styles that you use today, I haven't seen before.
Well, whatever I did didn't work. It broke. Let's see.
I mean, you don't even, I guess for the ternary, you could actually just put two and signs so that you don't have to put the other thing.
Yeah, that's weird, right? Then it's gonna say false inside of the DOM.
Oh,
when it's not open.
Oh, really? Oh, wow! I didn't know that. I thought it just.
So it says undefined. Look at that. So it says false, like I said, because we said and. So if it evaluates to false, it puts false. So that's what I mean. Like it's just like a crappy problem. So like somebody made this thing a long time ago. He's an awesome developer, Jed Watson. And look at weekly downloads, 6 million download. People download this module 6 million times this week. It's an old module. People have been using it for years. And it's just a simple utility tool that just solves this problem.
it's not a part of React. It's something you have to get. It's like a separate package.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
it's a
that's why I installed the package. So in Code Sandbox, you can install any package you want to use. You just go here and you add the dependency, and then you can import it. So I added the class names just to, because I knew we were gonna have to do something like this. I knew we were gonna have to like have a Boolean set a class only when like it's open. We would actually need another thing, like if you want to like finish the exercise, like you could fork this if you want and finish it later. Like these words are supposed to be off the screen, and then when you open it, then they come in. And if you watch the video, like Westboss shows you how to do it, so you can just like see how to do it in vanilla JavaScript and then figure out how to do that in React. It is not that much more code that you would have to add to like finish this up. Like we're probably like close to it. Like you would just need to like make the words come in, and I don't remember if there was anything else on the video that he did, but I don't know. I think we got pretty far.
Yeah, I'm thinking of finishing it, but I don't quite know where to post it for everyone here.
You can just post it in the React30 channel in the Slack. Oh, I forgot to post the Slack. There might be new people here. I always forget. I just assume like everybody always comes to the meetup. That's the Slack we use. I made a React30 channel if you come up with questions later, or for stuff like Claude, if he said he's gonna finish it up, then he can like post the finished up thing in the Slack channel. Also, I don't know, I might be connected with all of you on LinkedIn already, but that's my LinkedIn. If people want to connect. Yeah, anything else? Nothing? Okay.
And that's
Gonna-
fine.
I'm gonna stop the video then, and I'll see you all later.
Thank you so much for hosting.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
All right,
you.
have a good night. Let me stop sharing. Let's see if I can turn this off. Okay, yep, I got it now. See ya.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.